beginning of the year, and I'll tell you how I start off my writer's workshop every year. I don't actually start it at the beginning of the year. I wait for a while before I introduce the whole concept. I give it like a little bit of mystery. I tell them it's something really special that we're going to be doing, and we're going to kind of work our way into that. And I find that the very first lesson that is most important for them is voice, which is like how do they sound different and unique in their own writing, because usually the first writing assignment is some type of personal narrative, whether it's even just like a basic what'd you do this summer, or maybe there's an emotion, could you tell me a little bit about what happened, and we usually do personal narrative. And what I get sometimes is a personal narrative of basically just a travel log of I went here, we went there, we ate this, we did that, boom, I'm done. So I want them to start working on how to inject voice into their writing before we get into all the parts of a writer's workshop. It's really the most important thing. And so I do a lesson with them. It's a student guided one. Sometimes I do a whole group about defining what voice is. And then there's 2 different techniques that they can use to inject voice into their writing. So we go over that. Then we talk about quotes, talk about advice. I have spinner games that I do with them. And then I do an assignment called Write with the Pros, which is kind of like mentor sentences, but has like a little bit of a twist to it, slightly different, and they love it. It's kind of suspenseful. So let's go to the screen and I'll show you what I do. Okay, so every year I start off with a lesson on voice. I don't actually go into Writer's Workshop. I tell them that they have to pass through a series of challenges in order to be ready for Writer's Workshop. I make it so that it's kind of like they have to work their way into it. So it's kind of a big deal when we finally get there. And the way they do that is by going through these like 3 or 4 different activities on voice until they've really kind of come up with their own style and flair, and they start to feel confident. So, and I'll show you what I do with this first voice lesson here. The thing that I start with is a definition, and then we move into some examples, and then I walk them through their very first writing assignment with this slideshow. We talk about precision. We talk about how to amplify their writing. And then one thing I do when I'm giving a PowerPoint or something when the kids are going through this is I only put up maybe like 1 sentence at a time, so that when they're clicking through, they're just thinking about that one. And then the next one pops up the next sentence, and so on. So this goes through the definition of amplify, and then it gives some examples. And these are the 2 things that I have them do. They use precise details. So instead of a car, they're going to say it's old, it was blue, it was a Chevy, so that you can literally picture it if you're thinking of it like a movie. Then they're going to sprinkle in emotional reactions, which is what I see is missing in some of their writing, is they'll talk about something that happened and then there's no reaction to it. So if they know how to sprinkle it in, it's not all throughout, but if they put it in certain spots, it will really bring their writing alive. And then you'll start to notice in other writing, like the other things that they're reading, they will find it, they'll pick it out and they'll show it to you. There's a few 2 drag and drop activities that they do in here. So these are examples now of precise language and emotional reactions. And then they grab the stars and they move it over to the boxes. Then at the bottom, they can click here to check their answer, and it'll take them to the slide that will show them. Actually, I'm going to pop out of this and I'm going to show you all really quickly what that does. In case you ever decide to do something like this, you can do reveal slides so that they can't see them. If they're working over here on the, on the left, they'll be able to see the little thumbnails. But if you want to hide something so they can't see the answers, you can make like a box to click on and take them to that direct slide. So they go to slide 35, and then that's the reveal slide. When they're done, they click here. It takes them right back where they were. After that, they start with their first writing assignment, which is point of view. And this stuff walks them through it. And here's the important part. I want to just show you how I break down sort of the brainstorming section of this. I first have them just quickly look around the room and look for 2 things and just write them down, because we kind of need to get the stuff out of their brain that's sort of obvious. So find 2 things, write them down. And then they have to look around again. And this time they're not looking at people, they're looking for objects. So look for a paperclip, a lamp, a chair, whatever. And they just find 3 objects and write those down. So now they have 5 objects or 5 things on their list, but we're not done brainstorming. Here's the part where they're going to start acting like a detective. And I literally actually let them get up and they do a silent detective walk. So they have 5 things already on their list, but now they're going to do a silent walk. They have their paper on a clipboard or something. They've got 5 things, but now they have to find 5 more things that the average person wouldn't even notice. So here are some examples, like maybe there's a broken pencil teetering, a book turned upside down, there's a shoe peeking out from somewhere. They're trying to find things that maybe somebody else would never notice when they walk into that room. So now they come back and they have 10 things on their list, and they look over their list and now they have to decide, what is something that most people wouldn't notice at all? If they walked in that room, they just wouldn't even see it. Circle it. That's what they're going to write about. It's not going to be the first thing that they wrote down. And that's what we want to show them, is how brainstorming is going to get them to the most interesting topic they can possibly come up with. Then they start thinking about that object's sort of attitude about life. Are they loving it here? Are they hating it here? What's going on with them? And then in this diary entry, I go through an example one of a book that was upside down, and he's having a serious problem with the dictionary. They like don't get along. So I wrote an example one in here of a book who's super upset with dictionary and why that is. And then I put in their emotional reactions and precise language. So in the next slide, they have to then drag the stars over the examples to show which ones are emotional and which ones are details. And then they check it by going here, click on the bottom, they go to 36, and then they see, okay, was I right? Did I get them all? Okay, go back to 29. And then they're back on their way. And then this kind of walks them through how their diary entry is going to sound like it's going to have a lot of opinions, this object is, but we don't want them to tell us like what the object is. That's the fun part. So use precise details, emotional reactions. They can use exclamation marks. They can use all the fun stuff. And I have them write at least half page. Usually they end up writing more because they totally get into this so much. They love it. But they have to keep the object a secret. That's the best part, because this is an activity you can go back to all the time. They love to do diary of an object. But you have to make them do that shifty walk around silent detective walk to find the most interesting thing possible. When they're done, I do have this bonus challenge. It's a video that has all these, it's a lot of advice from writers about how to find your writing voice. And then I have another activity where from here, we move into all these pieces of advice, and I put things up on the wall, and then they write their own advice. And I'll give you links to that too. So this is one way to teach voice. And it's been working wonderful for me. If you want to pick up this slideshow, I'll put a link down below, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.